Okay, so have you ever felt like you're just drowning in information? Like you want to understand something really complex, but you just can't seem to get past that surface level. Like, what if there was a way to just like skip ahead, to get right to that deep understanding without having to wade through all the noise?
That's kind of the idea behind what we do here with the deep dive, right? It's like we're taking those sources that you're really interested in, and we're acting as your guides to help you extract the most important insights and knowledge.
Yeah, and make it really accessible too.
Exactly, and tailor it specifically to you, the learner, because we know you're the kind of person who values a really thorough understanding, but you want to get that understanding quickly and you appreciate different perspectives and just those moments when everything just clicks without feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah, those aha moments, for sure. And today we're going to dive deep into something I think is really fascinating, and it's all based on the research that you sent to us.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one.
It is. It's how our minds actually develop and how we learn. And our source for this deep dive is Dimitri Educating Developing Mind 2025 Zoo 4 Zoo 6 .pdf
Oh.
by Antigone Mui.
It's a really interesting paper.
It is. It's a really comprehensive theory that looks at the fundamental structure of the human mind, how it grows and changes over time, and then what all of that means for how we learn best and how we can be educated most effectively.
Yeah, so our goal today is to give you, the learner, a really clear understanding of the core elements of your mind, how they mature and evolve throughout life, and what the practical implications of that are for how you learn.
Yeah, we're aiming for those surprising and memorable insights.
Exactly. Those ones that you're going to take with
The
you.
ones that make you go, oh, wow, I never thought about it like that before.
Exactly.
Okay, so to get started, this theory starts with this really interesting idea that our minds aren't just this one single thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's more like a collection of interconnected systems that all work together.
Right. It's like a symphony.
It is. And there are four main types of these systems that the research highlights.
Yeah, that's right. And at the most basic level, we have what are called the specialized structural systems, or SSS for short.
Catchy.
They're catchy. And you can think of these as your mind's built-in toolkits for dealing with all the different kinds of information that's coming at you from the world around you.
Yeah.
And there are five key areas here. Categorical thought,
Okay.
quantitative thought, spatial thought,
Got it.
causal thought, and social thought.
Okay, so five different toolkits for making sense of the world.
Exactly.
Okay, can we break those down a little bit more? Like, what does each one actually do?
Yeah, absolutely. So categorical thought is all about how we group things together based on similarities and differences. So like how we can tell a robin from a sparrow.
Okay, so putting things into categories,
Exactly.
like birds or trees or cars.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And quantitative thought is all about numbers, amounts, magnitudes.
So, like, knowing if you have a few coins or a whole handful.
Yes.
Exactly.
Like if I were to show you 5 dots versus 10 dots, could you tell the difference without actually counting them?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. And then we have spatial thought, which is all about how we navigate space and create those mental maps in our heads.
Okay, like being able to find your way back home from somewhere new.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or even being able to imagine rotating an object in your mind.
Okay. Yeah.
Like if I showed you a picture of a chair and asked you to imagine what it would look like from the back, could you do it?
Yeah.
That's spatial thought.
Okay, cool. And what about causal thought?
Causal thought is all about understanding cause and effect and how things interact in the world.
Okay, like knowing that if you push a ball, it'll roll.
Exactly.
It?
Or if you leave an ice cube out in the sun, it will melt.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then the last one, social thought. What's that all about?
Social thought is how we make sense of social interactions and relationships.
Okay, so like understanding why someone might be happy or sad.
Yes, exactly. Or being able to predict how someone might react in a certain situation.
Yeah, okay, so those are the five specialized systems.
Exactly. The 5 SSSs.
Okay, so those are how we initially process different types of information from our environment.
Right. And within each of those SSSs, there are core mental processes that are kind of like the building blocks.
Oh, okay.
So for categorical thought, a core process would be recognizing shapes.
Got it.
For quantitative thought, it might be subitization.
Subitization, what's that?
It's that ability to instantly grasp small numbers without actually counting them.
Oh, okay, like when you see three objects and you just know there are three without having to go one, two, three.
Exactly.
Okay, clear.
And for spatial thought, a core process would be mental rotation.
Hmm.
So being able to picture that chair from different angles in your head.
Okay, I get it. And for causal thought?
For causal thought, a core process is causality perception, which is just perceiving when one thing leads to another.
So like seeing that a billiard ball hitting another billiard ball caused it to move.
Exactly.
Okay. And then last but not least, what about social thought? What would be a core process there?
Well, even something as basic as a baby, showing a preference for looking at human faces, that's considered a core process within the social thought system.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
So all of those core processes are basically how we start to engage with the world in these 5 different areas.
Exactly. They're the foundation for all the more complex thinking that develops later on.
That makes sense. Okay, so that's a good overview of those specialized systems. But what about the other systems you mentioned?
Right. So beyond those, we have the representational capacity system, which you can think of as your mental workspace.
Okay.
So it's like the space in your mind where you hold and manipulate information while you're thinking.
Okay, so like when you're trying to solve a math problem in your head.
Exactly. You're using your representational capacity system to hold all those numbers and equations.
Got it.
And this system is really closely linked to the idea of working memory, which you might have heard of.
Yeah, okay, so it's like the RAM in a computer.
It's a great analogy.
Okay, and then what was that third system you talked about?
The inference system,
Yeah.
right? And this is your mind's way of connecting the dots, like taking all those different pieces of information and integrating them to reach conclusions or solve problems.
Okay, I like that, connecting the dots.
Yeah, it's a good way to think about it. So there are 3 main types of inference that researchers have focused on: inductive reasoning,
Okay.
analogical reasoning, and deductive reasoning.
Okay, break this down for me a little bit.
Yeah, so inductive reasoning is all about finding patterns and making generalizations.
Okay, so like noticing that every time you eat a certain food, you get a stomach ache.
Exactly. And then you might infer that you're allergic to that food.
Right.
Analogical reasoning involves seeing parallels between different situations or concepts.
So like if you learn how to ride a bike,
Yeah,
you might find it easier to learn how to ride a motorcycle because you can see the similarities.
exactly. You're using your previous experience to understand a new situation.
Okay, and then what about deductive reasoning?
Deductive reasoning is where you draw logical conclusions from the information you have.
Okay, can you give me an example?
Sure. So, if you know that all dogs are mammals, and you know that Fido is a dog,
Yeah.
then you can deduce that Fido is a mammal.
Right, because he fits into both categories.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're using logic to reach a conclusion.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get this.
Good?
So the representational capacity system is like holding the raw materials, and then the inference system is like the builder, using those materials to construct our understanding.
I like that analogy a lot.
Okay, good. Now, what was that fourth system?
Right. The fourth system is the consciousness system.
Okay.
And this one is really interesting. This is what monitors, controls, and regulates all of your other mental processes.
Oh, wow. So it's like the CEO of the mind.
It is kind of like the CEO. It's responsible for self-awareness and your ability to reflect on your own thinking.
So like when you're trying to decide what to have for dinner,
Uh-huh.
your consciousness system is weighing the different options and making the final decision.
You got it. And what's really important to understand is that these 4 systems don't operate in isolation.
Yeah.
They're all interconnected and influencing each other all the time.
Okay, so it's not like one system switches on and then another one switches on. It's more like they're all working together in this constant dynamic interplay.
Exactly. If you were to look at figure 1 in the source, you'd see that these 4 systems are depicted not as separate boxes, but as overlapping circles.
Oh, that's a good visual.
Yeah, it really emphasizes their constant interaction and their influence on one another. It's a fluid and dynamic relationship, not a rigid hierarchy.
I like that. Okay, so it's like a complex orchestra with all these different sections working together to create our thoughts and understanding.
I love that analogy.
Okay, good.
Uh.
Now, how do these systems develop and change as we grow from infancy to adulthood?
Well, each of those specialized structural systems, the SSSs, they become more sophisticated, more abstract, and more flexible as we get older.
Okay, so it's not like they just appear fully formed?
No, not at all. It's a gradual process of development.
And are there like key developmental milestones that we should be aware of?
Oh, yeah, definitely. There are key developmental milestones that mark significant transformations in how we experience and make sense of the world around us.
Cool. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. What's happening in infancy from birth to around age 2?
Okay, so in those earliest years, the focus is really on developing those fundamental operators within each of the SSSs.
Okay, so those core processes we talked about earlier.
Exactly. So infants are building a very basic and often very context-dependent understanding of the world through their direct sensory experiences and actions.
Okay, so a lot of taking in the world through their senses and like figuring out basic cause and effect.
Exactly, like shaking a rattle makes a noise or dropping a toy makes it fall.
Right, so they're like little scientists just experimenting and observing.
Exactly.
Eh.
And their attention at this stage tends to be very broad and unfocused,
Okay.
kind of like floating attention.
Building attention.
Yeah, it's not that they can't focus, it's just that their attention is easily drawn to anything new or interesting.
Okay, I can see that. I mean, everything is new to them at that stage.
Exactly. And this actually plays a crucial role in allowing them to explore a wide range of stimuli and build a really rich and diverse pool of early experiences.
Okay, so it's almost like they're gathering data.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that data forms the foundation for all the learning that comes later.
That's fascinating. Okay, so we've got infancy covered. What about when we move into toddlerhood around the ages of 3 to 4? What's happening then?
Toddlerhood is a really exciting time because that's when we see the emergence of dual representation.
Dual representation. Of
Yeah.
what is that?
This is the ability to understand that something can be both a symbol and the thing that it represents at the same time.
Okay, so give me an example.
So think about a young child pretending that a block is a phone.
Okay.
They know it's a block,
Right.
but they can also use it to represent and act as if it's a phone.
Oh, okay, so they're holding two different representations of the object in their mind at the same time.
Exactly. That's dual representation, and it's a huge milestone in cognitive development.
Okay, why is it so important?
Well, for one thing, it's absolutely crucial for later skills, like reading and writing, because those skills depend on being able to understand that symbols represent something else.
Right. Letters represent sounds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And words represent concepts.
Okay, so dual representation is the foundation for all of that symbolic thinking.
Exactly. And it also allows children to grasp the multifaceted nature of reality.
What do you mean?
Well, it means understanding that the way something appears might not be how it actually is.
Okay, like a sponge that looks like a rock?
Exactly. And it also means starting to develop what's known as theory of mind.
What's that?
Theory of mind is the understanding that other people can have different thoughts, beliefs, and perspectives than you do.
Oh, okay, that's huge.
It is. It's a really important social and cognitive skill.
Okay, so toddlerhood is a key time for grasping that symbolic nature of things.
Exactly.
Okay, so what happens next? What about when children enter primary school around age 7 or 8?
That's when we start to see a major cognitive shift towards the integration of different representations and the development of an understanding of logical necessity.
Logical necessity. Okay, unpack that one for me.
So children are beginning to realize that different pieces of information and representations are actually connected, and they can constrain each other in logical ways.
Okay, so like if you know that all birds have feathers and a robin is a bird, then a robin must have feathers.
Exactly. You're using logic to connect different pieces of information.
Okay, that makes sense. And how does this change the way they think?
Well, it enables more systematic thinking.
Okay.
So they're able to classify objects based on consistent rules, and they can understand the underlying relationships between different concepts.
So they're starting to see the patterns and the logic that governs how things work.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. What about adolescence? What's happening in those teenage years?
Adolescence, generally around 13 or 14 years old, is when we see the emergence of conditional representations.
Okay, another new term. What are conditional representations?
So this is the ability to think in terms of if-then possibilities,
Okay.
to consider different perspectives and scenarios within a system of relationships.
So like if I study hard, then I'll get good grades.
Exactly. Or if I don't eat breakfast, then I'll be hungry later.
Right. So they're starting to think about cause and effect in a more complex way.
Exactly. And they can also juggle multiple pieces of information simultaneously and focus on the relationships between relationships.
Whoa, that's a lot.
It is. It's a really big leap in cognitive development.
Okay, and what does this allow them to do that they couldn't do before?
Well, it allows them to understand concepts like proportionality or to formulate hypotheses and test them systematically.
Okay, so they're becoming more scientific in their thinking.
Exactly. They're able to think more abstractly and hypothetically.
Wow, okay. So we've gone from infancy to toddlerhood to primary school to adolescence, and now we're at early adulthood, so the end of secondary school into
Okay.
the early 20s. What's going on in terms of cognitive development at that stage?
In early adulthood, we see a further differentiation between the actual thought processes we use and the knowledge itself.
Okay, so they're becoming more aware of their own thinking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're starting to recognize that different domains of knowledge or belief systems might operate according to different sets of rules.
Okay, so like the rules of science might be different from the rules of ethics.
Exactly. And they're also starting to realize that interpretations can vary across these different systems, even when the underlying thinking processes are similar.
Okay, so two people might look at the same evidence and come to different conclusions.
Exactly. And this often leads to more relativistic and dialectical thinking.
Relativistic and dialectical.
Yeah. So relativistic thinking is the ability to see things from multiple perspectives.
Okay.
And dialectical thinking is the ability to hold two opposing ideas in mind at the same time and synthesize them.
Oh, okay, so they're becoming more nuanced in their thinking.
Exactly. And ideally, over time, this leads to the development of more principled approaches to understanding and even wisdom.
So making balanced judgments based on a broader understanding of the world.
Exactly.
That's amazing. It's really fascinating to see how our thinking capabilities just unfold through these different stages.
It is. It's one of the things that makes studying cognitive development so fascinating.
Okay, now earlier you mentioned the representational capacity system and the inference system. How do these specifically contribute to this whole engine of learning and development?
Well, representational capacity or working memory shows significant improvements with age, particularly through childhood and adolescence.
Okay.
And it's not just about being able to hold more information in mind, but also about processing that information more efficiently and having better executive control.
Executive control, what's that?
So executive control is like the air traffic control of your mind.
Okay.
It manages your mental resources, focuses your attention, and helps you switch between tasks.
Okay, so it's like the conductor of the orchestra.
Exactly. And what's really interesting is that research suggests that training and increased familiarity with specific types of information can actually make your working memory more effective within that particular domain.
So the more we practice and become familiar with something, the more mental bandwidth we have to work with it.
Precisely.
That's a good tip.
And the inference system also undergoes considerable development.
Okay, how so?
Well, inductive reasoning, for example, starts with a very basic ability to just detect simple similarities in infancy.
Okay.
And it gradually progresses to the capacity for forming these complex theoretical suppositions in later developmental stages.
So like from noticing that two toys are both red to understanding complex scientific theories.
Exactly.
Wow, that's a big jump.
It is. And then deductive reasoning, which relies more on a conscious awareness of our own cognitive processes and logical rules.
Okay.
That moves from being applied in very practical, concrete situations in childhood
Okay.
to a more abstract understanding of those underlying logical forms in adolescence and adulthood.
Okay, so from figuring out how to build a tower of blocks to understanding the principles of formal logic.
Exactly.
Okay, so both inductive and deductive reasoning become more sophisticated over time.
Exactly. And what's particularly important to note is that these different systems don't develop in isolation.
Okay.
Research shows that improvements in one area, like processing speed within the representational capacity system,
Okay.
can actually support and facilitate development in other areas, like reasoning abilities within the inference system.
So they all work together.
Exactly. They're all interconnected and mutually supportive.
And like a rising tide lifts all boats.
Exactly.
Okay, now what about consciousness and our own self-awareness? How do those fit into this picture of a developing mind?
Well, consciousness is the system that acts to integrate all of our various mental constructs.
Okay.
And it allows for greater control and flexibility in our thinking.
Got it.
And a key concept here is meta-representation.
Meta-representation.
I know another big word, but it's an important one.
Okay, break it down for me.
So meta-representation is essentially the ability to represent and reflect on your own mental processes.
Okay, so thinking about your own thinking.
Exactly.
Okay, that is meta.
It is. It's like having a mirror that reflects your own mind back to you.
Okay, so like when I'm trying to decide what to have for dinner and I think to myself, okay, I'm feeling kind of lazy tonight, so maybe something quick and easy. I'm using meta-representation to reflect on my own mental state and my own decision-making process.
Exactly. You're aware of your own thought processes.
Okay, cool. So consciousness itself also develops in stages.
Right.
So what are those stages?
Well, in infancy, we see the emergence of body action consciousness.
Okay, what's that?
So this is a basic awareness of your own actions and your bodily sensations.
Okay, so like feeling hungry or tired.
Exactly. Or noticing that you're moving your arms and legs.
Okay, got it.
And then around the second year of life, self-consciousness develops.
Okay, so that's the classic mirror recognition test where babies start to realize that the image in the mirror is them.
Exactly. That's a key indicator of self-consciousness.
Cool. And then what happens next?
Around the age of 3, reflective consciousness emerges.
Okay, what does that mean?
So this allows for more intentional planning and self-evaluation.
So like thinking about what you're going to do and then judging how well you did it.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. So the development of our awareness of our own cognitive processes,
Mhm.
that's crucial for learning.
Right. Absolutely. It's essential.
But does it develop at the same time as those other forms of consciousness?
It actually tends to develop a little bit later than our awareness of our actions.
Okay, interesting. So we're aware of our bodies and our actions before we're really aware of our thoughts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And another interesting finding is that our sense of self-awareness and how we evaluate ourselves seems to develop in a kind of recurring pattern across different age phases.
Oh, wow. Okay, so how does that work?
Well, you see these shifts in self-awareness around the ages of 0 to 2, 3 to 7, 8 to 12, and 13 to 18.
Okay, so at each of those stages, our sense of self is undergoing some kind of transformation.
Exactly. And as we become more aware of our own mental
All
operations,
right.
this self-awareness becomes increasingly intertwined with our cognitive functioning.
So it's not just about knowing who we are, but also about understanding how we think.
Exactly. And this ultimately leads to that higher level capacity for meta-representation that we were talking about earlier.
Okay, so the more aware we are of our own minds, the better learners we can become.
Exactly.
I like that. Okay, now let's connect all of this to education. How does this theory inform the way we should be teaching and learning?
Well, this theory has some really significant implications for educational practices.
Okay, good. I was hoping we'd get to that.
Yeah, it's really important. So, first of all, there's this really strong two-way relationship between our cognitive abilities and our experiences in schooling.
Okay, so what we're capable of learning influences our school experiences,
Ah,
but our school experiences also influence our cognitive development.
exactly. It's a reciprocal relationship.
Okay, that makes sense. So are you saying that school actually makes us smarter?
Well, research has consistently shown that there are really strong correlations between measures of intelligence and academic achievement,
Okay, so the smarter you are, the better you tend to do in school.
right? But it's not quite that simple.
Okay, what else is there?
Well, specific cognitive skills like processing efficiency and problem-solving abilities within those different specialized structural systems.
Right, the SSSs.
Exactly. Those have also been found to contribute significantly to success in particular school subjects.
Okay, so it's not just about a general level of intelligence.
Right.
The specific ways our minds are structured also play a role in how we learn.
Exactly. So, for example, someone who's really strong in spatial thought might excel in geometry.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about the flip side? What about how schooling itself affects our cognitive development?
Well, schooling isn't just about passively absorbing facts.
Right.
It's an active process that actually promotes cognitive growth across those different systems.
Okay, so school is like a mental gym.
It's a great analogy.
Cool. Okay, so based on this theoretical framework and all those developmental milestones we've discussed, are there any like key educational priorities that emerge for different age groups?
Yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
The source actually outlines some key priorities, and I think they're really helpful for thinking about education at different stages.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So for infancy, the focus should be on encouraging directed exploration and building upon those core sensory and motor processes.
Okay, so lots of playtime and exploration.
Exactly.
Got it. What about toddlerhood?
In toddlerhood, it's crucial to facilitate the development of dual representation and encourage exploration of different actions and perspectives.
Okay, so pretend, play, dress up, things like that.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. And then when they hit primary school?
The primary school years should emphasize logical exploration and helping children understand the coherence and connections between different representations.
Okay, so helping them see the bigger picture.
Exactly.
What about those tricky teenage years?
For adolescents, a key priority is to foster suppositional thought.
Suppositional thought.
So that's that ability to think in if-then terms,
Right, okay.
and also developing epistemological awareness.
Epistemological awareness. Okay, you're going to have to explain that one.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
Yeah.
But basically, it's an understanding of the nature of knowledge itself.
Okay, so like, where does knowledge come from? How do we know what we know?
Exactly. Those are the kinds of questions that adolescents are starting to grapple with.
Okay, that makes sense. And then last but not least, what about adulthood? What should the focus be there?
In adulthood, education should aim to refine those more complex forms of conditional and theoretical thought
Okay.
and integrate them within a broader understanding of different knowledge domains.
So like continuing to learn and grow throughout our lives.
Exactly. Lifelong learning is essential.
I like it. Okay, so that's a really helpful roadmap for thinking about education at those different stages.
Good. I'm glad you think so.
But what about specific teaching strategies? Does this theory offer any insights into how we can actually put all of this into practice in the classroom?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The theory actually suggests several really effective instructional strategies.
Okay, let's hear them.
So one important approach is mental modeling.
Okay, Menhall modeling.
Yeah, so this is where students are actively encouraged to create and use mental models to deepen their understanding of concepts and to aid in problem solving.
So like creating a diagram of how a plant cell works.
Exactly. Or a timeline of historical events.
Right. Okay, so
And
helping them visualize and organize information.
exactly. Another key area is focusing on domain-specific learning.
Domain-specific learning.
Yeah, so this is really helping students to develop expertise within particular subject areas.
Okay, so like becoming a master of math or a whiz at writing.
Exactly. And it also involves addressing any existing misconceptions they might have through carefully designed conceptual change strategies.
Conceptual change. Okay, what's that all about?
Well, it's about helping students move from their initial understandings, which might be based on intuition or personal experience, to more scientifically accurate understandings.
Okay, so like helping them understand that the Earth revolves around the sun, even though it looks like the sun is moving across the sky.
Exactly. That's a classic example of conceptual change.
Okay, cool. So we've got mental modeling, domain-specific, learning conceptual change. What else?
It's also vital to explicitly teach and develop inference skills.
Right, so those connecting the dots skills we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. And encourage meta-representation.
Okay, there's that word again. What was meta-representation again?
So that's helping students to become more aware of and reflect on their own thinking processes.
Right, thinking about thinking.
Exactly. And ultimately, it's about equipping students with the skills and knowledge of how to learn effectively.
Okay, so teaching them how to learn.
Exactly. Because once they know how to learn, they can apply those skills to any subject or any situation.
That's so important. And then finally, we can't forget about critical thinking and creativity.
Absolutely. Essential skills for the 21st century.
So how do we foster those in the classroom?
Well, it involves developing their ability to evaluate information and evidence,
Okay.
to consider alternative perspectives, and to generate novel solutions.
So like challenging assumptions, brainstorming new ideas, thinking outside the box.
Exactly. All of that is essential for critical thinking and creativity.
This is great. So it's not just about presenting information to students.
Oh,
It's about giving them the cognitive tools they need to really engage with that information in a deep and meaningful way.
exactly. It's about empowering them to become active learners.
I love that. Okay, now what about the timing of instruction? Does this theory offer any insights into when certain concepts might be best introduced?
Oh, absolutely. The theory strongly emphasizes the importance of aligning those educational demands with the cognitive capabilities that are typically present at different developmental stages.
Okay, so what does that mean in practice?
Well, it means that we need to be mindful of the cognitive load that we're placing on students.
Cognitive load.
Yeah, so cognitive load is basically the amount of mental effort that's required to process information.
Okay, so if the cognitive load is too high, students are going to struggle.
Exactly. And so every concept and every task has a certain level of representational demand.
Right.
And what we teach needs to be within the current processing abilities of the students.
Okay, so we can't teach algebra to a kindergartner.
Exactly. You've got to build up to those more complex concepts.
Right, so start with the basics and gradually increase the complexity over time.
Exactly. And it's interesting to note that research has even observed a relative age effect in classrooms.
What's that?
So this is where younger students within the same grade level sometimes experience more challenges compared to their older classmates.
Oh, okay, so like a child who just turned 5 starting kindergarten alongside a child who's almost 6.
Exactly. And this might be because of those initial differences in cognitive readiness.
Okay, that makes sense. So we need to be mindful of those individual differences as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We can't just assume that all students are at the same level.
Right. You mentioned conceptual change earlier. Why is that such an important aspect of education?
Well, it's crucial because students often come to the classroom with their own pre-existing lay theories or understandings about how the world works.
Okay, so like common sense explanations that aren't necessarily scientifically accurate.
Exactly. And sometimes these can actually be at odds with the scientific explanations.
Okay, so give me an example.
Well, one common misconception is that heavier objects fall faster than lighter objects.
Right. I remember thinking that when I was a kid.
Yeah, it's a really common intuition, but it's not actually true.
Okay, so how do we help students overcome those misconceptions?
Well, effective teaching needs to actively help students to critically examine and revise those existing conceptions and adopt more accurate evidence-based understandings.
Okay, so it's not just about presenting them with the correct information.
Yo.
It's about helping them see why their old way of thinking is incorrect.
Exactly. And mental modeling plays a vital role here.
Okay, how so?
Well, by helping students to build and work with mental models of those new concepts,
Right.
we can often demonstrate the limitations of their existing understanding and the advantages of the new, more scientific perspective.
So it's about showing them why the new idea is a better and more useful way of explaining things.
Exactly. And this process isn't always easy because our initial intuitions can feel very compelling.
Right, because they're based on our own personal experiences.
Exactly. So it takes time and effort to guide students through this process of conceptual change.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, you also talked about educating reasoning skills earlier. What does that look like in practice?
Well, this involves helping students to decontextualize the process of inference.
Decontextual. Okay, what do you mean by that?
So it means helping them to see that the underlying logical structure beyond the specific examples.
Okay, so like teaching them the general rules of logic rather than just showing them how to solve specific problems.
Exactly. Because once they understand those general rules, they can apply them to any situation.
Okay, I like that.
And it also involves helping them to differentiate between those different types of reasoning that we talked about earlier.
Right.
Inductive and deductive.
Exactly.
Okay.
And encouraging them to use mental models as aids in the reasoning process.
Okay, so like using a Venn diagram
Yeah.
to visualize the relationship between different categories.
Exactly.
Got it.
And finally, it's about helping them to develop